The Knicks and Cavs in game one. Cleveland was up by as many as 22 midway through the fourth, but Jalen Brunson doesn't want to see a loss in game one there. Gets the floater. How about Mikal Bridges in the corner? He nails a three to make it a three-point game. Knicks down three. OG Anunoby to Landry Shamet. And he gets the friendly bounce. The Garden's going crazy now. Two-point game. Brunson just going to work against James Harden. He was food when that matchup happened. Stephon Marbury, loving it. So they outscored. They went on a 38 run to end regulation. And they outscored the Cavs 44-11 after being down by as many as 22. How about Donovan Mitchell with 29? But Jalen Brunson, 38 points, 5 rebounds, 6 dimes, 3 steals. And New York shocks Cleveland at home. Time now to welcome in CBS Sports NBA analyst John Gonzalez and NBA champ and former NBA Coach of the Year Avery Johnson. And y'all, we got classics, right? Going to OT in both the East and Western Conference Finals. The Knicks, they look dead in the water, right? Down 22 midway through the fourth, and then Jalen Brunson takes over. John, I'll start with you. How did they pull off this comeback?
Well, okay, so the Knicks, for how bad they looked in the first 3 quarters, we should remember that during the regular season, they had the best fourth quarter defense in the NBA and the best fourth quarter point differential in the NBA. And tonight that served them really well, right? Because they're down 22 with 7.5 minutes left in the game. And you're thinking they're cooked. They've been off for too long. They couldn't find their rhythm. They couldn't find a shot from outside. And then they mount the second largest fourth quarter comeback in NBA playoff history and the largest in franchise history. Jalen Brunson really got going. He looked excellent. Took him a second, right? But then when he finally got going, he looked like Jalen Brunson. And what happened in the fourth quarter in overtime was apparent to everybody. And I'm interested to hear what Avery has to say about this, because Jalen Brunson went right at James Harden. He was hunting James Harden during that comeback over and over and over again. And at no point did the Cavaliers look up and say, maybe we got to do something about this, because James Harden is basically a traffic cone out there, and this is not working out well for us. And then while all that is happening, you have Donovan Mitchell, who played great up until 3.5 quarters through the game. And then when the comeback starts happening for the Knicks, Donovan Mitchell disappears. He doesn't have the ball in his hands. He's not getting any shots up. Makes very little sense to me how the Cavs executed the back end of that game. And the Knicks, full credit to them, because one of the concerns and questions I had about the Knicks, aside from the layoff, was that they weren't really tested in the first 2 playoff series against the Hawks for sure, and then definitely not against the Sixers. They put up no resistance whatsoever. What would the Knicks look like when they were challenged? Well, tonight we got that answer, and they looked pretty good. They still won at home, and the Cavs are going to be kicking themselves.
John, I agree. I placed this squarely at the feet of both. When you look at Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, what are we doing? Give the Knicks credit. Incredible fourth quarter. But my goodness, James Harden's defense against Jalen Brunson, I don't even want to share my age, but I'm probably 20 years older than him or more. I could play better defense than that. They were searching out James Harden. He didn't step up. He didn't even provide any resistance. Where's the resistance? And then Donovan Mitchell. I know you like to kiss your fiance after wins. I don't know if you're going to get a kiss tonight, because you don't deserve one, because you completely disappeared at the end of this game. So, again, I placed this squarely. We could talk about coaching, but I placed this squarely at the feet of James Harden and Donovan Mitchell. You were supposed to walk out of Madison Square Garden with a win tonight. Your team was in rhythm pretty much throughout the game. The Knicks were off for 9 to 10 days. They were lethargic until they kicked it in until the fourth quarter. I may have to change my pick. I had the Cavs winning in 7 games. I'm not sure right now with them losing this game tonight.
Wow. Okay. All right. So that really shook you up. And it is fitting, right, that Knicks make this comeback down by as many as 22. Because last year, right, they choked the game against the Pacers. They were up by as many as 14, and they blew that lead. We all know what happened. Tyrese Halliburton, they win in overtime. So now, a little bit of poetic justice. But, Coach, you talked about it, right? Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, they got to be better. Donovan has to be the alpha male in this situation. But Kenny Atkinson, he only called one timeout during that run for the Knicks. How much blame do you put on Kenny Atkinson and just not pumping the brakes there, getting his team controlled again when the Knicks were clearly cutting into the lead?
And that's fair, Chris. It's a collaborative effort. But coaches know their teams. With some of my younger teams, I'm probably gonna call a timeout or two. Some of my older teams, I'm not gonna call a timeout. So it's not just the Eastern Conference Finals, Chris. It's the whole body of information throughout the season that he's referring to. So again, if he had to do all over again, maybe he'll call a timeout. But again, he trusts his team. He's got two veteran elite guards. All right. So he's thinking, look, they can problem solve. We'll figure it out. But at the same time, if they're in the same situation in game 2 in the East Conference Finals, maybe he'll call a timeout.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you have to get Donovan Mitchell involved. Donovan, you got to call out. You got to be like, look, give me the ball when you're playing that well. And that just didn't happen down the stretch. So as we look ahead to game 2, John, how did the Cavaliers rebound and make sure there's not a snowball effect where they go down 2-0 to New York?
Yeah, I mean, that's something to be concerned about, right? Because they had that game locked up for 3.5 quarters, and you're thinking, okay, they went from not being able to win on the road at the beginning of the playoffs to winning game 5 and game 7 in Detroit to looking like they're going to win game 1 from deep, and they missed 11 free throws, and some of that was the hack-a-Mitch strategy. But on a night when all these things really were stacked up for the Cavs are going to come away from this thinking to themselves, how did we lose this game? And we really hope it doesn't happen again in game 2, because if it does, that might be it.
Yeah, and it would be very dark times for Cleveland. Coach, I'll ask you the same question. When you think about Cleveland, they had it, right? A chance to seal game 1 on the road. Now they got to regroup, flush this game out. How do they do it to make sure this doesn't carry over into game 2?
I don't think they do it. From an energy standpoint, this